Right now, as you're watching this video, 3 separate wars are brewing that could change the world forever. And here's what terrifies me. Most people have no idea how close we are to a global catastrophe. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening in Ukraine, why Iran and the US are on the brink of war, and why the collapse of the nuclear treaty between Russia and America might be the most dangerous development of all. But here's the critical part. These 3 conflicts aren't separate. They're interconnected like dominoes, and if one falls, it could trigger the others. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how we got here, what could happen next, and most importantly, what this means for your life. Let's start with the war that's already raging. The Russia-Ukraine war just hit a critical turning point. After nearly 4 years of brutal fighting, something unexpected happened this week. Russia and Ukraine completed their largest prisoner exchange in months. 157 Russian soldiers returned home from Ukrainian captivity while Ukraine got its own captured troops back. This wasn't just a humanitarian gesture. This prisoner swap came right after intense peace talks in Abu Dhabi, mediated by the United States. Trump's special envoy called the negotiations detailed and productive, saying sustained diplomatic engagement is delivering real results. Trump's own son-in-law, Jared Kushner, personally joined these talks, showing just how serious the administration is about ending this war. But Ukrainian President Zelensky issued a stark warning. He said Ukrainians need genuine progress toward peace, not a scenario where Russia exploits the talks to continue attacks. And that's the key question. Is this real peace, or just a pause before the next offensive? Here's where it gets really complicated. This isn't just a Russia-Ukraine conflict anymore. Iran has been supplying Russia with thousands of Shahid drones that have devastated Ukrainian cities and energy infrastructure. North Korea is sending millions of artillery shells. China is watching carefully, using Ukraine as a test case for what might happen if they move on Taiwan. So Ukraine has become a testing ground for a new axis of power: Russia, Iran, North Korea, and indirectly China, all coordinating against the West. Every Iranian drone that hits a Ukrainian apartment building gives Iran combat data they'll use against American forces. Every North Korean shell fired teaches them how their weapons perform in modern warfare. This means when we talk about the Ukraine war, we're really talking about a global conflict that just hasn't fully erupted yet. Now, what could cause this war to explode into something bigger? 3 scenarios. First, if Russia launches a major new offensive and NATO decides direct intervention is necessary. Second, if the peace talks completely collapse and Trump decides to massively increase weapons supplies to Ukraine, crossing Russia's red lines. Third, if there's a miscalculation, an accidental strike on NATO territory or a Russian tactical nuclear weapon use out of desperation. The timeline. Military analysts are watching the next 3 to 6 months as critical. Spring offensives traditionally happen in May and June when the ground dries out. That's when we'll know if this peace process is real or just a winter ceasefire. Now let me tell you about the second war that's brewing, and this one could start literally any day. 3 hours ago, an Iranian lawmaker named Ali Yazdika issued one of the most chilling threats I've ever heard. He said, and I quote, "If any mistake occurs, American carpenters should prepare their coffins." He added that if conflict breaks out, it would spread to everyone, with U.S. allies hit first. Iran's armed forces chief backed this up, warning that any military action would impose irreparable costs on those who plan or support it. This wasn't some random politician. This was a direct message from Iran's leadership. How did we get here? Last June, Trump ordered what he called the Midnight Hammer Operation, a massive strike that destroyed 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This triggered a 12-day war that ended with a fragile ceasefire. But Iran never stopped enriching uranium. They kept pushing toward nuclear weapons capability. This week, U.S. and Iranian negotiators met indirectly in Oman for nuclear talks. The goal was simple: get Iran to stop enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief. The talks failed. Iran rejected U.S. demands to halt uranium enrichment completely, though they said they're willing to discuss the level and purity of enrichment. That's like a bank robber saying he won't stop robbing banks, but he'll discuss how much money he takes. But threats are one thing. Actual military confrontations are another. And those are happening right now. Just days ago, an American F-35C fighter jet shot down an Iranian Shahid drone after it aggressively approached the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea, just 500 miles from Iran's coast. The drone kept advancing despite U.S. de-escalation attempts in international waters. U.S. forces had no choice but to destroy it. Hours later, Iranian Revolutionary Guard speedboats and another drone threatened to seize an American oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. destroyer McFall had to rush to the rescue, preventing what could have been an international incident that sparked war. Right now, the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is positioned off Iran's coast, ready for strikes. Iran knows this. America knows Iran knows this. It's a powder keg. And here's what makes it even more dangerous. About 5,000 people in Iraq have signed statements expressing readiness to fight for Iranian-backed militias if America attacks Iran. This isn't just US versus Iran. It's US versus Iran plus Iraqi militias, plus Hezbollah in Lebanon, plus Houthi rebels in Yemen. A regional war. Trump isn't just threatening military action. He's waging economic war that could be just as devastating. Just today, the U.S. State Department sanctioned 14 oil tanker ships, 2 individuals, and 15 companies accused of running Iran's illegal shadow fleet. These vessels secretly transported Iranian crude oil, fuel, and petroleum products to foreign markets, bringing Iran hundreds of millions in revenue while evading sanctions through fake identities and deceptive shipping tactics. Then Trump signed an executive order threatening 25% tariffs on any country that buys Iranian goods or services. Think about that. Any nation that does business with Iran faces massive economic penalties from America. That's not a sanction, that's economic siege warfare. Iran's options are narrowing. They can either surrender their nuclear program and accept humiliation, or they can fight. And cornered countries often choose to fight. Here's why this conflict won't stay contained. If the U.S. strikes Iran's nuclear facilities again, Iran will retaliate against American bases in Iraq, Syria, Qatar, and Bahrain. They'll attack Saudi oil facilities. They'll close the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes every single day. Oil prices would spike 50 to 100% overnight. Global recession would follow. But here's the real danger. Russia has a strategic partnership with Iran. They've been coordinating militarily. If the U.S. attacks Iran, does Russia provide intelligence, weapons, maybe even direct support? Suddenly, you have U.S. forces potentially facing Russian-backed Iranian forces. This brings us to the third war, and this is the one that keeps me up at night. 2 days ago, on February 6th, the last nuclear arms control treaty between Russia and America officially died. The New START Treaty, which limited both countries to specific numbers of deployed strategic nuclear warheads, expired. This was the final remaining agreement controlling the world's 2 largest nuclear arsenals. Let me put this in perspective. Russia and the United States together possess 90% of all nuclear weapons on Earth. That's over 10,500 warheads that could literally end civilization multiple times over. And as of February 6th, there are no legal limits on how many more they can build. Before this treaty expired, Russia was limited to 1,550 deployed strategic warheads. America had the same limit. No. They can deploy as many as they want. 5,000. 10,000. Whatever they decide. And here's the signal that should terrify you about what's coming. Warren Buffett, the greatest investor in history, just moved $325 billion to cash. He's literally sitting on the sidelines with more cash than the entire economy of most countries. Buffett has only done this twice before, right before the dot-com crash in 2000 and right before the financial crisis in 2008. Both times, he was proven right. Markets collapsed. He then used that cash to buy incredible companies at fire sale prices and made tens of billions. Why does this matter for nuclear war? Because Buffett doesn't just see stock market risk. He sees geopolitical risk. When the nuclear treaty collapses, when Iran and the U.S. are on the brink, when Ukraine could escalate, smart money knows a major crisis is coming. It might be economic, it might be military, but something big is brewing. Now, there is some good news. The U.S. and Russia are negotiating what they're calling a handshake deal, an informal agreement to continue observing the treaty limits voluntarily even though it's expired. Trump's envoys have been working on this in Abu Dhabi, alongside the Ukraine peace talks. But here's the problem, it's not legally binding. It's based entirely on trust. And trust between Russia and America is at the lowest point since the Cold War. This handshake deal could collapse at any moment if either side decides to break it. If that happens, we're looking at a new arms race. Russia starts deploying hundreds more warheads. America matches them. China, watching this, accelerates its own nuclear buildup. India and Pakistan feel pressure to expand their arsenals. Nuclear deterrence, which has kept the peace for 80 years, starts breaking down. The worst part? More weapons means more chances for accidents. Miscommunication. False alarms. In 1983, a Soviet early warning system falsely detected American missiles launching. One officer, Stanislav Petrov, decided it was a malfunction and didn't report it up the chain of command. He was right. He literally prevented nuclear war. But we got lucky. Next time we might not be. Now here's the absolutely critical part that almost nobody is talking about. These three wars aren't separate events. They're connected like a chain reaction, and if one explodes, it could trigger the others. Let me show you how the dominoes could fall. Domino 1. The U.S. launches strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Russia decides to back Iran with military intelligence, maybe weapons, maybe even direct support. Suddenly American forces are in confrontation with Russian-backed Iranian forces. The Ukraine war becomes secondary as U.S.-Russia tensions spike. Domino 2. The Ukraine war escalates because Russia wants to distract from Iran. NATO gets pulled in to defend Poland or the Baltic states. Russia, facing potential defeat, threatens nuclear weapons. The informal handshake deal on nuclear limits collapses. Arms race accelerates. Domino 3. With no nuclear treaty and trust broken, both sides start deploying more weapons. Miscalculation happens, maybe in the Black Sea, maybe in the Persian Gulf. A ship is sunk, a plane is shot down. Both sides are on hair-trigger alert. What should be a containable incident spirals into rapid escalation. Domino 4. Global economic crisis from sanctions, war, and disrupted oil supplies. Stock markets crash, that's what Buffett sees coming. Social instability follows economic collapse. Governments under pressure make aggressive moves. More conflict erupts. This is why you can't look at these conflicts in isolation. They're all part of the same global power struggle. Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea on one side. The United States, NATO, Japan, and allies on the other. And we're watching the pregame before the real match starts. So what does this mean for you? Let's be practical. Economically, if any of these wars goes hot, oil prices spike immediately. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz or attacks Saudi facilities, crude oil could hit $150 to $200 per barrel. Gas prices double or triple. Every product that needs shipping becomes more expensive. Inflation, which we've finally started to control, comes roaring back. Stock markets will react violently. Buffett's $325 billion in cash isn't an accident. He sees a major correction coming. Whether it's triggered by war, economic recession, or both, markets are vulnerable. If you're heavily invested with money you need in the next 5 years, you're exposed. Supply chains will break again. Remember COVID-era shortages? War-driven disruptions are worse because they're unpredictable and sustained. Food prices rise. Technology gets delayed. Basic goods become scarce. So what should you actually do? Here are 4 practical steps. 1. Build an emergency fund if you haven't already. 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash. Not for doomsday prepping, but because economic shocks from these conflicts are real possibilities. 2. Review your investments. If you're close to retirement or need the money soon, consider moving some percentage to safer assets like treasury bills or cash. You might miss some gains if I'm wrong, but you'll protect yourself if I'm right. 3. Don't panic, but do prepare. Panic selling locks in losses. Panic buying of gold or crypto is usually a mistake. But informed preparation, understanding the risks, having a plan, staying flexible, that's smart. 4. Stay informed but don't obsess. Check news once or twice a day, not every hour. Constant exposure to crisis news increases anxiety without improving your decisions. Look, I can't predict exactly what will happen. Nobody can. But I can tell you this, we're living through one of the most dangerous periods since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The difference is, most people are completely unaware because these crises are unfolding slowly, not as one dramatic event. Ukraine has been grinding on for years, so people tune it out. Iran tensions have been building for months, so they feel normal. The nuclear treaty expired without headlines, so most people don't even know it happened. But slow-building crises are still crises. And when they finally explode, the people who prepared are fine. The people who ignored the warnings suffer the consequences. 3 wars are brewing: Ukraine, Iran, and the nuclear arms race. They're interconnected. They could trigger each other. And they're all happening right now while most people scroll through social media, completely unaware. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe so you don't miss updates as this situation develops. And drop a comment. Are you worried about these conflicts, or do you think I'm overreacting? Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.